Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrew Elliott. I'm a political reporter with The National, and I'm joined by the SNP's president, Michael Russell. Hello, Michael. Good afternoon.
Hi. Greetings on a wet afternoon from Argyll.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit of a crazy day for the SNP today. I mean, the calls from Kate Forbes and Ash Reagan for the independent auditors dropped late last night, and I mean, there's been a bit of a scramble to respond to it today, it looks like. So what's your view on the calls for independent audit of the SNP leadership ballot?
I want to separate out two things. The first thing is figures, the numbers of members, which I think everybody would have expected during and would expect during the cost of living crisis, during the pandemic, to fall. I'm not fixated on numbers, but I think they should be issued. As far as I'm aware, and it's the National Secretary who's in charge of this, that offer was made at the end of the process. The candidates wish it at this stage of the process, well and good. I have no difficulty with that, and I've said so publicly. However, I do depart from the view that there's, in some sense, a lack of belief in or faith in the systems. This is, as John Swinney pointed out this morning on radio, this is a system and a company we've used for many years. The results are absolutely unimpeachable. It is a company of the highest repute, and there is no interference from HQ staff. In fact, the whole system is run by an elected office bearer, which is the National Secretary. The staff have no access to live data, no access to the system as it goes through. And I think in those regards, some of the allegations that are being made are simply wrong, and I'm sure that they will be withdrawn because they are wrong, and some of them appear to me to be malicious, and in those circumstances, they should not be entertained. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, as much information as possible, as much transparency as we can achieve, but then to attempt to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater is, in my view, not correct. And I particularly, and I've said this publicly this morning, particularly concerned with the way in which HQ staff are being treated, on social media, which is simply wrong and should not be happening. And I hope those people who are indulging in that behavior will cease.
Yeah, so we've seen the SNP MP Gavin Newlands referred to specifically the calls for auditors as Trumpian, in reference, obviously, to the US president. What's your views on this kind of infighting?
Well, I mean, I don't think it helps anyone. I mean, I've chaired 4 of the hustings. They have been good hustings. They have been polite in the greatest part. They have been constructive, and the policy has been addressed. That is what a leadership contest should be about. It should not be about the internal processes of the party, and there is no need for it to be about the internal processes of the party, because those are solid and sound and robust. We've seen too much in recent years of allegations without substance. Statements being made which simply are wrong. I mean, you see them every single day. They are simply and completely and utterly wrong. They're not based on any facts. But I don't think it helps to exchange insults of any descriptions. What it helps is to get on and have a fair and open contest, and one that is a contest of ideas. And that's what I'll go on urging the candidates to have. I have been studiously neutral in this process and will continue to be so. And I would urge the candidates to address the issues that people want to hear about.
You have come under a little fire yourself from various Tory and Labour politicians this morning for your use of the word enemies to describe political opponents. What would you say in response to that?
Well, I would say what I have replied to Rachel Hamilton, the Tory MSP, on that: if the cap fits. I mean, I think the fit of the vapors that certain journalists have had, for example, is, to put it mildly, hypocritical. I think that there has been an organized or disorganized attempt to discredit the SNP. This has nothing to do with publishing figures. This has nothing to do with publishing figures. The figures need to be published, and I'm quite confident about that and happy about that. What it's to do with is constantly denigrating and running down the SNP and what it is trying to achieve. And I think that is based upon the success of the party. There has been with social media another campaign for years against the SNP because it is people are thoroughly afraid of it because it has been such a successful electoral machine, for example. And therefore, I'm not going to take advice on how to express myself from Tories or even, with the greatest respect, some journalists.
So do you think that this row around the internal processes of the SNP will impact on the party's electoral fortunes moving forward?
Well, I hope not. And I hope that once the election is over, people will group together, come together and work together to achieve our aims, primarily the aim of independence for Scotland. But the person there's a great deal at stake in here, and this is, I wrote, as you probably know, a piece for the paper a couple of weeks ago, pointing out this is the first time that there's been an SNP leadership election in 19 years. It's been the first time that it's taken place when the SNP is in government. It's been the first time when the successful candidate will also be the SNP's candidate for First Minister and is likely to become First Minister. It's the first one in the full social media age. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of this. The difficulty of holding such contests within the current state of Scottish politics is one of those lessons. Too early to examine those, I think, closely, but after the election, those need to be examined, and they need to be examined very closely. Things have moved on since the leadership election of 2004, in which I was a candidate, and a much younger candidate, I have to say, and an unsuccessful candidate. And I didn't question the integrity of the process.
Yes, so you were saying just before we went live here that you would like to see some calm come over the party. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I think that we have much more that unites us and divides us, and I think we need to demonstrate that, and I'm sure we can demonstrate that. I mean, I have known all three of the leadership candidates for a reasonable length of time. I've worked with all three as ministers, and I think they have much more that unites them than divides them, and I think they should reflect upon that each time they're about to say something, because we have to come together at the end of this. There's no option but to come together and to work together. And in those circumstances, we should be wary of doing anything that makes that more difficult.
Do you think that it will be much harder to unite the party under one leader, whether that be Reagan, Forbes, or Yousaf, as a result of this?
No, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm absolutely neutral on this. I don't think any of them would fail to recognize the need to make sure that we all work together. That is what an SNP leader always does. A good example comes from 2004. That was actually a very bruising contest for a variety of reasons. I don't know how much people remember of it, but in Alex Salmond having said that he wouldn't be part of it, and if nominated, he would not run. If elected, he would not serve. Suddenly joined the race, and Nicola became his running mate, and it was a very bruising contest. But at the end of it, the party came together, very firmly came together. And in 2007, we won that election and became the government and been the government ever since. So the lesson out of that particular contest is that coming together, unity immediately, and making sure that that unity is one in which everybody buys into the objectives to achieve what we need to achieve. That is what we need to do. So
we are hoping to see the SNP membership numbers published later today. I mean, Lorna Finn in her letter to the candidates has suggested that with the support of the NEC, then the numbers will be released. Do you think that would be enough to quell the unrest?
Well, I hope that answers the immediate question, and I think that transparency is required. I mean, I'm strongly in favour of that transparency. I think then when you move on to the wider issues that seem to be addressed, I see no reason for the lack of confidence, and I'm quite sure the National Secretary will be willing to speak to the candidates should they continue to have concerns. But I see no grounds for those concerns, that this is a well-established system using a well-established and reputable external agency, and there is no access by HQ to the information which is alleged. And given that those allegations therefore are not based on fact, I think that we should then move on together to conclude this contest.
Yeah, so yourself, the Deputy First Minister, the First Minister, the Deputy, well, actually, I don't know if Mary Bucks actually said that so much, but there's a lot of top figures in the party saying they can't see where these concerns have come from. But obviously, a lot of people have these concerns. So where do you think they have come from?
Well, I might dispute a lot of people. There have been a lot of noise about these concerns, but I hope that people accept that the integrity of the party and those who lead the party is there and demonstrated. I mean, in a social media age, lots of things can be said, and there is no comeback. There is no way of going back to it. Sometimes they're said anonymously. Sometimes they're just said, and because people believe that they have the right to say anything because they're on social media. There is no evidence of any wrongdoing. And I think that's really important that we say that. No evidence whatsoever of that wrongdoing. However, there is a need for a greater transparency, and that has been freely admitted and will be acted upon. And if there's further things to be discussed, well and good. But we have a contest underway, and we should complete that contest.
So I'm just having a look at the comments that have come in. Just one question that, well, it's kind of been asked in the middle of quite a long comment. Would we not expect people like yourself, the SNP president, I mean, the Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, would we not expect these people to already have a grasp of how many members are in the party? I mean, why is it such a mystery?
Well, I don't think it is a mystery. Those figures are published every year. What we shouldn't have is a fixation upon those figures. And what we appear to have is a fixation upon those figures, but from some people. The reality of the situation is the figures appear in the annual accounts of how many members that we have. That is how it should be. I'm very strongly of the view that the SNP, for example, the NEC, should not spend every meeting going on about figures. The important thing is, are we winning elections? Are we moving the independence campaign forward? What are the difficulties politically we're facing? What are we doing in those circumstances? And to fixate on membership figures is to fixate on the wrong thing. Okay. In actual fact, that's the NEC view too. That's the NEC view. And that's been the view of the NEC for some considerable time.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I won't keep you all day, Michael. I know you're a very busy person, aren't we all in these times? So yeah, we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much indeed. Take care.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're gonna log off there, but this will be available to view back on our socials. I mean, some of you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter as we speak, and you will be able to tune in and watch this back, see Michael's comments again. So yeah, thanks everybody, and goodbye.